Today I want to talk about my top 5 favorite philosophers. I want to share some of their ideas. I want to share perhaps some of the books that you should read by them and really just inspire you to start picking up these great minds because they've done so much in terms of my personal development, my personal growth, and these are ideas that I feel myself coming back to time and time again. So if it's something that I'm lingering on, it's something that you're probably going to want to linger on too. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first name I want to bring up is Socrates. There's not really a list that's complete of philosophers without the idea of Socrates. We don't actually have any teachings by Socrates. Like, you see him represented in Plato's works, Plato's dialogues, but it's kind of unfortunate because Socrates didn't believe in writing. He didn't believe that it was a good medium of expressing ideas and really getting people to understand things, because his method of things was to question things. He would give you a point and you'd have to defend it question after question after question. He would slowly try to break your argument apart piece by piece by piece until he destroyed the whole thing. And through the process of this, he would break your moral framework, your reality tunnel, the ideas that you hold so strongly. He would break them down through this method of questioning. And it's just truly an inspiring thing, and it's something that we need much more of today. And it's really a shame that, like, modern day schools call it the Socratic method, even though they have no understanding of what Socrates really is and what he really stood for. Because Socrates, if he was teaching a history class, he wouldn't teach you the dates. He would teach you the why. He would teach you the motivation. He would teach you why Napoleon did this thing, why certain people did these things. Like, what is the purpose behind it? What was the motivation? What were the human beings feeling? Why? What caused them to act this way? And that's really the fundamental difference with Socrates, and that's why he's so inspiring. And I just want to bring up 2 quick stories of Socrates. The first is the death of Socrates. This is perhaps what he's most well known for. When you talk about the death of Socrates, this is basically like the crucifixion in terms of intellectuals. It's the crucifixion in terms of philosophers, poets, any sort of person that loves literature, because the reason Socrates died was he was teaching the youth of Athens to question. He was teaching them to question authority, start to question why things are happening a certain way. Like, why are we doing this if it doesn't benefit us, if it benefits these people? Like, and basically he was sentenced to death for making people think, for making people question authority. And he was given the option to either drink poison or live in exile, and he chose to die rather than live in a world where he couldn't express himself. Die rather than live in a world where he couldn't be himself. And this is seen as symbolically one of the greatest things that an individual has ever done, especially for the sake of freedom of speech, especially for the sake of expressing yourself. Because what is a world where you can't express yourself? What is a world where you can't think freely? What is a world where you can't be who you are? That's the idea of it. That's the significance of it. And this is something that when you read philosophy, you hear this story time and time again. It truly has inspired most philosophers, and any philosopher worth his while. Like, whatever the saying is, I know I messed it up. Any philosopher worth anything will talk about the death of Socrates and how inspirational it is, and how it's something that echoes through history as a very significant event. The last story I want to tell about Socrates is very quickly. Socrates was told people asked the Oracle of Delphi, who is the smartest man in the world? And the Oracle says, Socrates is the smartest man in the world. All of these people are angry. They're like, no, he's not. This guy's an idiot. He's weird. They go up to Socrates. They're like, the Oracle said you're the smartest man in the world. He says, I'm not the smartest man in the world. I know nothing. They go back to the Oracle. She goes, that's why he's the smartest man in the world. He's the smartest man in the world because he doesn't have any preconceived notions about anything. He is open to new ideas. He is open to new perspectives. He is open to every side of the argument so that he can pick and choose the best argument. He doesn't believe in things because belief without critical thinking is the death of thinking. When you believe in something, you stop questioning it. And when you stop questioning something, that's when you die, because when you're not thinking anymore, you're brain dead. We'll give you some symbolism there. We'll give you something to think about. But the next name I want to talk about is Seneca. Seneca is my favorite Stoic philosopher. Everyone talks about Marcus Aurelius. Everyone talks about meditation. It's a good book. I don't think it's a great book, especially not a great book compared to Letters from a Stoic. This is really Seneca's seminal work. Seneca's a very interesting dude. He was the advisor to a Roman emperor, and he was basically caught up in a plot and then eventually killed. But this really shouldn't take away from his legacy, because there's even a weird part of the Bible that was cut off. It was his letters to Paul. And that used to be part of the Gospels, but it got taken out and it got destroyed. But we know the legends about it. But Seneca's an interesting man because he basically, through letters from a Stoic, imparts wisdom into people, and he does it in like the most like grandpa way possible. Like he's like, most of the things he's saying is like, it's like addressing a minor issue, but then he takes it in the most philosophical way possible and just breaks down the entire universe, and you're just like, all right, this is awesome. That's truly the best way to describe Seneca. And some of his ideas are the idea that we suffer more in our own minds than we do in reality. Everything that you build up in your head is always worse than the actual thing. Think of every time you were scared of something. Maybe it was a roller coaster, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Like, was it ever as bad as the anxiety you felt before? And this is the mindset we take into our lives. This is the thing that we cause our own suffering day after day after day after day, and it's so unfortunate. That is probably my favorite idea from Seneca. Another one that I really like is approaching death, approaching old age. One of his letters, he talks about old age. He basically says that, I've been a young man, I've been a strong man, I've been a capable man, I've been a physical man, and now is time where my wisdom shines. Now that I don't have the body, now my mind has to compensate for all these things, and I've lived my life in every stage, and this is the last stage I have to face. Similarly with death, he was willing to face death, and he came to the realization that as the days grew less and less, as he had less and less time, each moment was more and more meaningful because he must appreciate them more and more and more. And it's truly an inspiring mindset. Definitely pick up Letters from a Stoic, tremendous book. The next person I want to talk about is Albert Camus. I love Camus so much. Camus is, he's not really talked about in the likes of other philosophers, and maybe that's because he died fairly young for a philosopher. I think he was like 49 or 50, something like that. And he was really just hitting his stride. He was really getting into the swing of things. And Camus encapsulates a weird idea called absurdism. Absurdism is nihilism, but like instead of getting depressed and crying about stuff on the internet, you smile and laugh. I think the closest thing to an absurdist that we've seen in recent times is George Carlin, because Carlin saw everything really messed up with the world and would just make jokes about it. That's the best way to encapsulate an absurdist. Basically what it is it's nothing has meaning, but you need to find meaning in the small things. You need to imagine Sisyphus smiling as the rock falls back down the hill, and he needs to push it up again the next day. That is the basic of absurdism, and it's really just understanding that the things you do on a daily basis in the grand scheme of things won't matter, it won't make a difference. And like when you come to this realization, it's liberating, because so many people put so much pressure on themselves to become something, to have a legacy, to leave their mark, to do something of great worth, and it really never ends up working out. It really never ends up doing anything aside from taking yourself away from who you are, taking yourself and making something out of whatever time you have, and it's not a lasting thing. In 1,000 years, people will probably forget Alexander the Great. People will forget Julius Caesar. People will forget Leonardo DiCaprio. People will forget, all of these individuals who are very, very famous, who are very, very popular, who left their mark on the world. Do you think you can do more than those people? Do you think you can leave a legacy that will last more than a few thousand years? Because everything will eventually fade to dust. Everything you see, every idea you hold will eventually go dormant. And it's finding solace in this fact instead of finding hopelessness. It's experiencing things for the joy of it. It's the idea of Wu Wei. I know I didn't include Lao Tzu on this list, but I'm going to cite Lao Tzu here. When you do something that is so inspiring that it doesn't feel like work, that is the point of life, and that is what Camus is hitting at. And it's truly a beautiful philosophy, and it's something that I really love, because it's almost an atheistic view of Taoism, of the Tao. The next name is Friedrich Nietzsche. I love Nietzsche. It's weird because before I read Thus Spoke Zarathustra, I liked his ideas, but I didn't really like his writing. Whereas when you read Thus Spoke Zarathustra, it's very poetic, it's very inspiring, and it's reminiscent of something like The Prophet. It's reminiscent of that style of book. And if you know anything about me, those are my favorite types of books. But the thing about Nietzsche is an individualist at heart. Nietzsche hated systems, and he believed that when man frees themselves from their chains, when man breaks the systems and the ideas that are limiting them, that are telling them that they have to do this way, they have to do this way, when they're their true, authentic self, this is where you achieve everything possible. And if everyone did this, the world would be perfect. If absolutely every person in the world took the time to find out who they are, find out the things that they wanted to do, find out the inspired action that they want to take, the world would be a beautiful place. And this is his idea of the Ubermensch. He also has another super inspiring idea called eternal recurrence. And it's the idea that you must live your life as if you have to relive it time and time again till the end of time. And this is an idea that, like, if you don't really have a moral framework, a framework that like believes in something better, that believes in a God, I think this is the most inspiring atheistic worldview. Because think about it, would you do everything that you've done up until now for the rest of time? For most of us, it's no. But now that you have this idea, now you can start living your day and actually seizing it. Now you can start doing the things day after day that you really want to do. Like, who cares if people don't like you if you're unhappy? You know what I mean? Like, why do we try to please everyone else for the sake of them? Why don't we try to please ourselves first? And the people that are inspired by that, the people that love that we are happy, are the only ones that we should really try to make happy. The only people that we should really care about are the people that love to see us doing what we want to do. I really love Nietzsche, and Nietzsche has another idea, very, very controversial. Let me explain it before you get mad. His last idea I want to harken on is God is dead and man killed him. This is the idea that the framework that we have for religion is not really a framework for the enlightenment of souls. It's a framework for the systems of power and the systems that be. Because, you know, think of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has more money than any institution on earth, and there's homelessness. There's people that are, getting kicked out of their house. There's people that are going hungry. There's people that are starving. There's people that are showing up to churches and getting turned away. Like there's a ton of injustice going on in this world. And if you really upheld the beliefs of Jesus, do you think you would give this away, or do you think you would continue to sit on it and earn interest? You know what I mean? It's a very weird idea when you start breaking down things like this. And I think Nietzsche really has a point that, like, the institutions that have arisen from the Christian sense, the traditional Christian values, is very restrictive, and it's not really representative of who Jesus was. It's all about worshiping Jesus, worshiping through a medium, worshiping through a middleman that speaks at the church instead of being like Jesus, instead of acting like Jesus. And I promise you, if Nietzsche could revise what he said, he would be like, stop trying to worship Jesus, try to act like him. I'm telling you, he would agree with what I just said. These are really just super, super inspiring ideas. And, to confirm my last point, Nietzsche said that Jesus was the last Christian. He said he was the last Christian. I'm starting to lose my words at this point. I'm like, this is a pretty long video for me. On to the last name. You guys probably know who the last name is. It is Emerson, my probably top three favorite authors. I say top three favorite authors because when you read Emerson, it's something. It's like a spiritual journey. It's something that you read, and it encapsulates an idea that you've always thought, that you've always felt, that you always knew was there, but you couldn't quite put your words on it. And to me, every time I pick up an Emerson essay, whether it's 5 pages, whether it's 10 pages, I learn something about myself. And that's not something you could say with many other works. That's not something you can say when you read other authors, especially philosophers. I feel like a lot of philosophers, come up with a moral framework. They try to break things down. They try to explain existence. They try to explain reality, but they don't do it in an inspiring manner. They don't do it in a manner where you can take it and go improve your life. Whereas Emerson tells you everything will be solved if you find out who you are. Everything will be solved if you just follow nature. It's a very Taoist idea, but the thing about Emerson is not trying to replicate Eastern ideology. He's trying to create his own. And that's the greatest thing. One of my favorite Emerson quotes is, make your own Bible, make your own book of quotes and aphorisms and phrases and stories to live by, and then live by it, because that's a system that you built, and that's a system that makes you happy, and that's a system that works for you. Another great idea by Emerson is to be great is to be misunderstood. I also interpret this as to be misunderstood is to be yourself. That is the key of it all. When you can be yourself unapologetically, this is all you can be in life. This is all you need to be in life. It's truly one of the most fascinating things. And I really don't think I can do Emerson justice. I really don't think that me talking about Emerson is going to do him justice. So I need you to read Self-Reliance. I need you to read Nature. I need you to read Circles. Those are 3 tremendous essays. And another great idea by Emerson is history belongs to all men. The idea that if someone else has accomplished something, you can accomplish it as well. Do not be jealous that someone else did something, because the nature of human progress is someone does something and then the next person improves on it, and then the next person improves on it. So because someone else has done it, that means you can do better. Tell me that's not the most awesome idea. Tell me that's not the greatest idea. Tell me that's not something that you can wake up and get out of bed and just jump out of bed. I'm telling you, Emerson is probably the greatest philosopher who ever lived. It's very sad he's not put in the likes of Nietzsche, but yeah, that's my list of the top 5 favorite philosophers I have. If you want more from me, go ahead, join my school community. That's where I write my own stuff. That's where I write my own philosophy. I don't know if it's as good as Emerson's, but I find it interesting and it's fun to do. So there's definitely a lot of names I left off this list. My camera's about to die, so I'll run through them very fast. I love Lao Tzu. I love Osho. I didn't put Jung on here because he's not really a philosopher. I really like Aldous Huxley, Robert Anton Wilson. I'm trying to think of who else I have right in front of me, but Kafka, you could say he has some philosophy interweaved into his books. But yeah, I think this is a pretty comprehensive list, and I think if you read all these authors, you're truly going to be